My story today is going to be about the bad witch. All right? So, how does this start? Auntie Abena is also coming to talk about this story with us. All right? So we're going to do it in a particular way. I'm going to read one part. She's going to read another part. And then Nadlin is going to do some translation. All right? So, let's start with this bad witch. It seemed like a day just like any other day to Kitty at first. She had a boring day at school. She'd been told off for talking in assembly. She'd eaten all her packed lunch at morning break and had done badly in her spelling test. So everything was just as normal. She was feeling lonely again, too. And she'd always found it difficult to make friends.
After her usual snack of apple and milk after school, she took her dog to the park at the top of the street. Everything was fine until suddenly, crash, bang. Go ahead. Okay. Kitty blinked and then blinked again, and in shock, a very odd-looking woman with long red hair, dressed all in black, had just crash-landed into a bush right in front of her. She had fallen out of the sky. Kitty stared at her, stunned. Even Raffles was too surprised to bark, and that had never happened before.
Oh dear, she said, the woman, trying to clamber out of the bush. Are you all right, Kitty asked, peering at her in concern. The woman looked at Kitty. Oh, she said, sorry, I didn't see you there. Looks as though you didn't see the bush either, Kitty said, trying to stifle a giggle. She knew she shouldn't laugh at people who had accidents, but the woman looked so funny.
I just got caught up in a gust of wind in the North Pole, said the woman. Boy, was it cold. Brrr. I don't want to live there anymore. Kitty was confused. No one lives in the North Pole, she said. Only polar bears. And don't I know that, cried the woman. She held up her long black cloak. It had a massive tear in it. They have teeth as sharp as razors and claws that could rip you to pieces. That's where I lost Excalibur, my dear. Beloved cat.
Your cat? Kitty stared at her, horrified. The polar bear didn't eat your cat, did it? No, said the woman. Excalibur decided life with me was far too dangerous and left with my sister on her broomstick instead.
Her broomstick, Kitty asked, confused. What else would we be flying on, said the woman, tugging at the broom handle. It was stuck in the bushes just like she was. Look, little girl, she continued, looking distressed. Can you please help me? I'd fly out of the bush myself if my silly broomstick wasn't caught in these prickly branches.
But Kitty was still frozen to the spot in surprise and didn't move. She just stood there staring at the woman, dressed all in black. She could see that she was wearing pointy-toed black boots, and something clicked in her mind. Are you a witch? She asked.
Well, what do you think? Said the woman, looking at her strangely. Black pointy hat, black cloak, flying broomstick. I'm sorry, said Kitty, but I've never seen a witch before, at least not a real one. And you don't have a pointy black hat.
Okay, so it got a little dented, said the woman, reaching up towards her head. Oh, she cried. patting her head and realizing there was nothing on it. Oh no, I've lost my hat. When I saw something black in that polar bear's mouth, I didn't realize. Oh dear.
So if you look, we could show them the picture. So this is the witch, and she has fallen into the bushes. And you see she's missing her hat. And her broomstick is broken. And where's Kitty? This is Kitty here. And this is Ruffles, her dog. Yeah? See her broken? She looked as though she was going to cry. And instead of being scared of the witch, Kitty suddenly felt sorry for her. After all, not all witches were bad, were they?
I'd like to help you, Kitty said, but my mother told me not to talk to strangers. The woman looked affronted. Well, I am Zara, the woman said. Dear, I've introduced myself, so I'm no longer a stranger. Now, can you please help me get out of this bush? Then, if you wouldn't mind, can you direct me to number 7 Silvington Street? That's where I am moving to.
That's next door to me, Kitty said happily. Really? Well, how lovely. Zara smiled. What's your name?
Kitty, Kitty, Kitty told her. She smiled shyly at Zara. So, they've now been introduced, and it turned out that Zara was going to be her neighbor. Her mom had always told her that you had to be kind to your neighbors, especially older ones. Kitty looked around and saw that there was plenty of people around who could come to her aid if she felt threatened.
Kitty rushed forward and pulled Prickles out from Zara's cloak. She then started to pull her out of the bush, but Zara was very nimble, and it was several minutes before Kitty managed to get her free. Thank you so much, Zara said, pulling out twigs from her brilliant red hair. You are very kind to me.
Don't witches have black hair? Kitty said. I was going rather gray, Zara said. Hair dye is such a wonderful thing to help an aged witch look younger. And red is so cheerful against my black clothes. You need to remember, Kitty, that just because you hear something about a group of people, it doesn't mean that they are all like that.
People say witches are bad, but not always. I'm a good person. She smiled down at Kitty warmly. Then suddenly, she rolled up her sleeves, produced a wand from her robes, closed her eyes, and waved her wand in the air. There was a flash, and suddenly, a black cat landed at Zara's feet. Kitty yelled in surprise, and the cat arched his back and started hissing at her.
Excalibur, behave yourself, Zara cried. She picked up the cat and cuddled him tightly. Oh, it's so lovely to see you, darling. Thank you for coming back. I didn't have much choice, Excalibur grumbled Excalibur grumpily. Kitty gasped. You are a talking cat? She cried. But cats can't talk.
Again, don't believe everything you are told, Zara said with a wink. Yes, I am a talking cat, said Excalibur. I'm also in a bad mood. I was having a lovely fish supper by the fire, and then suddenly I'm whooshed here to face even more dangers than you. You were supposed to retire last year. Well, now I have, said Zara. I promise. Kitty felt sorry for the poor cat. Can I stroke you, she asked.
Please do, Excalibur purred. Looking rather less grumpy now, Kitty smiled. A friendly talking cat. How wonderful. Excalibur's fur was beautifully sleek and soft. She turned to Zara, who was inspecting her broom. Zara had a kind face, but there was one thing Kitty had to be absolutely sure of if she was going to lead her to the house next to hers.
You are definitely a good witch, aren't you? She asked. Ha! That's funny. Of course she's not, said Excalibur. Kitty gasped in alarm. Zara pulled her face. He's right, she said. So you're wicked? Kitty asked fairly. Oh no, Zara laughed, realizing that she had confused Kitty. I always try to do good, but I'm not very accurate with my spells, as you see. She held the broom, which was still broken. I used to be much better.
But she was never that good, said Excalibur. And now that she's older, well, do you know, Kitty, I have nearly set on fire and almost drowned. I even had a building collapse on top of me. But I always rescued you, Zara cried. Yes, but it was you who put me in danger in the first place, Excalibur pointed out.
Well, no more. I told you I've retired, said Zara, and I've got some lovely fish in my bag for you. If I could only find it, wherever did it go? Kitty found it hanging from a branch of a nearby tree, where it had obviously fallen when Zara crash landed. Thank you, my dear, the witch said, taking it from her. Now you can show us to our new home. Now, can you show us to our new home, Kitty?
Kitty and Raffles happily led the way. Zara was delighted with the roomy cottage. It's just perfect for my retirement, she said. Kitty, dear, you've been so kind and so sensible. It's lovely that you would help a stranger, but good that you make sure you know that whoever you meet is good. You've been lovely, so here's a thank you gift for you.
Do you all want to see Kitty and Zara in her new home in the roomy cottage? So the good witch is so happy. Zara waved her wand. Kala Zara, Kala Kazit. Make this lovely girl a treat. Kitty suddenly felt strange. There was a whooshing sound in her ears and she tingled all over as she changed shape. Suddenly, she felt very flat. Excalibur was staring at her, absolutely horrified.
Oh, Zara, you changed the poor girl into a treat. Instead of making one for her, Excalibur cried. Quickly, reverse the spell.
Looking rather flustered, Zara muttered something and Kitty braced herself. There was more whooshing and she felt all tingly once again, and then everything felt right again. And she realized that she had been turned back into a girl. Phew!
What? What was I, asked Kitty. A box of chocolates, Excalibur told her. My goodness, I'm so glad that you could turn me back, Kitty gasped.
So can we show them how she turned into a box of chocolates? Look, Kitty turned into a box of chocolates. This is Kitty. She made a mistake, and Ruffles was so confused.
All right. There's a box of chocolates there, right?
Right, Excalibur said. No more spells. Okay, said Zara. I guess not every witch can be great at what they do, but I like this cottage and I like my new neighbor, who is not mean to me just because I'm a witch. I just want to live a lovely, quiet life with my beautiful cat.
And that was how it was. Kitty had a fascinating new neighbor who had a beautiful talking cat. And when they were on their own together, they both told her stories of the magical life they led, of princesses saved and battles with even trolls and spells that had gone wrong.
Every day was interesting and Kitty was delighted. And whenever she saw a sudden flash of light and heard a cat's yowl, Kitty and Ruffles immediately rushed around to investigate, knowing that yet again something had gone wrong and Zara still quite hadn't retired.
And whenever her friends talked about bad witches or were mean about old people, she always reminded them that it is important to get to know people rather than judging them. After all, doing this meant that she was never lonely again.
The end.
The end. Okay.